Does, and so I've been there about 2.5 years. We're on what we've characterized as sort of a stabilize, optimize, and transform sort of path.
Okay.
My very first year was about stabilizing the environment, understanding the environment, what do we actually own and manage from an IT perspective. You would think that that was already a known entity, but many of us know that the looming shadow IT and the various aspects of program versus CIO, so the whole decentralized environment in which we execute is an important piece of it, and so understanding the environment was the very first step. This year, what we've been doing is really focusing on governance, and so coming out of this piece where we actually stabilized the environment, characterized it from a security standpoint, gain an understanding of exactly the 200 systems that we've actually managed and authorized at the end of the stabilization period. We now then put those under governance because we actually reduced the portfolio. This year, we're actually endeavoring to move the portfolio down by around 50 systems. The review gave us the opportunity to appropriately govern, and what I mean by that is, if you think about decentralized execution and sort of centralized governance, that's sort of our model. We now brought all of the stakeholders to the same table where we are governing and have an IT governance board meeting every 2 weeks that's chaired by myself and the deputy administrator. The ability to make then strategic decisions that impact both resources as well as mission enablement are made at that table from an IT perspective.
Yeah, I think people miss too, some people say, oh, governance, but it is so important if you get that in place because it's there for the long run.
Right. And then I think the other thing is that the linkage to actual budget. So one of the things that we did was, we realized that as we looked at our Exhibit 53, it was somewhat tied to our financial system, but not directly. And so one of the things that we've done this year also is actually put in a project code for each one of our IT systems. So as they procure different pieces of equipment to support that actual system, now we have true visibility into tracking. So that's something new, but by the end of this fiscal year, what we'll be able to do is then, with a keystroke, actually look at our amount of IT spend and how it relates then to system boundary.
Wow, that'll be great for your industry partners too, because I know over the years when they look at some of the public documents and then try to match them to the budget and try to match them to what the agency actually does, it's an impossible task.
Correct.
So, by getting all that stuff lined up, I think it'll make it easier for industry partners to work with you.
Right, and I think the other aspect of it is it allowed us to be more agile in our strategic decision making. So for example, when the OPM breach occurred, to identify my high-valued assets, I had those in hand because I had done the initial stabilization piece, would place those under governance, so then I actually could pull very quickly out which systems actually contain PII,
Excellent.
personal identifiable information, which ones were mission essential, and then actually which ones also had financial data. So that's sort of the major benefit to it.
And if I asked you for some lessons learned along the way doing this and some of the things you think were keys to success?
Yeah, I think a couple things. One is know your customer base. Every CIO, I was, as the new CIO, getting out to the field was important. I
remember when you first went in, I was having a hard time catching up with you because you were somewhere around the country all the time.
I went to installations where they hadn't seen a CIO in 10 years, 5 years, 4 years. How can we actually provide them services if they don't know us and we don't know them? I think the second thing is which has already been mentioned, is collaboration. The understanding how to collaborate, how to build relationships. Now I can pick up the phone and speak to field leaders if I have an issue. If we're trying to support them, my team actually does a lot of the field support. So we set up joint field operations centers in the field. We work with the regional administrators to make that happen. Before, that wasn't sort of a phone call. That was sort of, I'm throwing some stuff over the transom, and we hope we all collaborate and sort of work well together. Now I actually know them. So if there's an issue, it doesn't bubble up through, and we can actually resolve the issue at the lowest level.
Makes a big difference when you shake hands and get to know somebody than when you have a situation you need to work together or address an important topic, to be able to pick up the phone and have a relationship with that other person. Well done.